Well, I've worked in a number of really quite different areas. I suppose in narrow academic terms, I've worked on French and Francophone, modern French and Francophone literature, so 19th and 20th centuries. But over the last decade or so, I've started to write for a wider audience, which I very much enjoyed. So from the narrower academic works on French colonial and post-colonial writing, I wrote the biography of Georges Sand, and writing a biography was a new departure, and it's partly, I suppose, an academic discipline, but it does have quite a strong sort of creative dimension. And then I wrote a rather quirky book about a Roman patricide, a woman who conspired to murder her father, having been abused by him. It's a Renaissance story, so it's partly about her life, but it's also about various writers and artists who became fascinated by her life hundreds of years later and resurrected her in various different works. So it's partly an exploration of the power of a story to survive over time, which intrigues me, the idea that if an injustice is done, it won't be forgotten. It will go on circulating, and as it did in Rome, as an oral tradition. But then that hundreds of years later, writers should still feel that this was an injustice and resurrect her. And then my most recent book was actually commissioned by Yale University Press, and it's a history of women's reading, which my colleagues teasingly describe as from cave to text. What I'd like to write as my next book will be a book about the novel. And I want to try and do two things at once. I want, on the one hand, to introduce the novel in all its variety, and at the same time, to give hints to would-be writers about how to read novels in order to write novels. That's what I'd like to do next, because there are quite a lot of books about, become a famous novelist, become a bestseller, and I think I could do something slightly different.